Hello everyone, Sejr here. I have created my 5 cards using Scrapping for Less's card kit for April 2020. It is the city streets and country roads, and I have to say that this was a lot of fun. This kit is just full of awesome pattern papers and elements to play with. So to not make this video too long, let's get to card number 1. For card number 1, I took the stamp of the flying superhero and I colored him in with Inktense colors. Just playing around with some very basic colors, kind of giving the impression of a Superman type superhero. So I cut him out, fussy cut him out, and then what I also did was I took some of the pattern paper, and it all has this comic book style to it, and I've trimmed them up into sections. I then will take this black Soot, I believe it's called, distressed ink, and I'm just going to go over all the pieces. And I'm trying to create that effect of a comic book page. So that's what the card's going to be inspired by, and the collection is called Superhost. So it really worked well. The paper was just amazing. I love the dots and the clouds. It was just really well done. So what I had actually done off camera was I traced it on a piece of paper, and then I used that I cut it all out and used it as a template, and then I'm now placing them all back down to see how it looks. Not the neatest, cleanest line because I'm not using a die, it's all cut by hand, but it's not bad. I actually really like this effect. I'm going to make another one. I did already color the female version, I just didn't use it in my card video. So I will play around with that just because I really like this design. It's just a lot of fun. I think it's perfect for any kid who loves comics, or even adults. So I'm just placing this all down back into place, creating a nice little border. I think it's a 1/4 inch border all around. So then I'm trying to figure out what I want to do for the sentiment. But first, I always forget what I do. First, I take a gel pen and I'm just going to outline the whole thing. When I use the water for the Inktense pencils, it kind of flushed it out. It kind of water washed it out. So I just went over the whole thing just to create a nice black line around the whole thing again. For the sentiment, I decided to cut off camera a really, I don't know, it's not a speech bubble, but it's an action bubble, I guess you could say. And I'm going to glue that to a piece of black cardstock, and I'm just going to fussy cut out a border. This was not hard because it's all just straight cuts. You just go around in triangle shape. So fast forward that, and you can see it has that real cool comic book style action. So I'm going to put one of the stamps that came in the collection. It's called You're Amazing. And I'm just going to color that with VersaFine black ink right in the center. I didn't do anything fancy, no heat embossing or anything. I just kept it as is. And then I'm going to glue that onto the card. So just with some art glitter glue, I'm going to glue it on, and it's going to hang over a tiny bit. For the superhero, I'm propping him up with some foam tape from scrapbook.com, little squares, and I'm just going to place them just over the clouds so it looks like he's flying. Then trim off the excess of that bubble. Very fun card. I really like this one. It's a lot of fun. And of course, you get enamel dots with every collection, so I just threw them on. Not needed, but adds a little bit. So that's card number 1. I really like it. I love the distress around the pieces, and it just turned out really well. For card number 2, I decided to play around with some Nuvo alcohol markers, and so I am using the white cardstock that came in the kit, and I'm just going to ink this up using 2 types, and I realized I shouldn't have done that because I didn't think about using markers right away. That first ink I used, I can't remember what it's called again, it's not very good with alcohol markers. The Momentum ink that I use for the scooting, that ink it works well once it's dry. It works well with alcohol markers because it doesn't bleed and the ink does dry really fast. Um, so when I go over, I'm very careful when I realize you'll see. I go over the marker or that ink, the sentiment, and then I realize that it's going to blend. It's going to melt. It's going to what's the word? It's going to bleed. So I end up being very careful the second time going over it. These markers are my gray collection of Spectrum Noir. I just happen to have a collection of those, but the rest of the markers will be Nuvo. And if you're interested, I can put it, just write a comment, and I can reply. But I didn't show it. I'm not used to showing my coloring techniques or techniques. I'm not used to showing my coloring, so I don't have the habit of showing it on camera. So I just color away. Okay, so enough of the rambling. Back to the picture. I'm going to create my own little bushes in the background. I'm completely playing around. I have no plans really, and that's the way I like to make my cards. I don't pre-plan very often, and sometimes I win and sometimes I lose. Well, it's always a win. Sorry, it's always a win. You just gotta love everything you create because you're learning as you go. So I'm just using one of the Nuvo markers and I'm creating an outline around the bush that I had already created. Once again, just trying to play around with different techniques of coloring. Mainly the coloring so far has been very basic. For me, it's a little bit hard to color when I don't have the lines already defined and when it's such a huge space to fill. I find that very challenging and I don't know how to do it. I'll have to look up some videos and just play around. Like if it's a small area, it's just very easy to just blend markers. But it's okay. I'm very happy with this outcome. It's not bad in my opinion. It's just a different style and technique. And yeah, so we'll just keep. I just keep talking. I'm trying to fill up this time. So I'm just going over, just trying to shade. And then for the sky, I'm just going to go over the blue. And you'll see I go over the writing and I realize that, oops, it's starting to bleed a bit. So I'm just going to be careful the next time because I don't want to bleed any more than it had already. And I don't know how to color such a big space. As you can see, there's lots of streaks. I do go over it a few times to try to blend those streaks. If anyone has any ideas or point to a video that someone has explained it, that'd be helpful. Maybe it's because I'm using Nuvo and not Copic that I'm having troubles. I'm not sure, but I'm not really upset about it because it just creates kind of a sky that has lines in it. And sometimes you get those when you're looking in the sky and you see those very faint clouds that just kind of wisp through. So that's what I'll go with. It was purposely done. I took one of the darker blues and I don't know, it didn't turn out the way I wanted. I wanted it more blended, but I don't think these colors blend very well. So it kind of just is a shadow in the sky. But whatever, it works. I'm just going to keep adding layers of blue because it's just, I just want to blend it a little bit better. So I'm just going around the letters not to go over too much. Like I said, and you know, actually, I actually kind of like the idea of it being kind of light around the words. I'm going to play around with that idea. I think I fix it, but I like the idea that it's kind of colored in the background, but there's like a little highlight around the words. It's kind of neat. So I got to figure out how to do that. I decided to go with a redhead. I just thought the colors looked really cute with those that lovely hair that she has. So I'm going to go with some nice dark oranges and that golden hair, and then I'm just going to blend it all together. I just thought it looked Like, how could I not color that hair that color? I just, it just looked really perfect. Of course, because she has orangey yellow hair, I decided to go with little green eyes. But you won't see that. It's going to be, from this height, it's pretty hidden. Yeah. Coloring in the... And if you guys... I decided to keep the coloring in this time just because I'm actually making great time. It's only 32 minutes so far. So sometimes I like to watch people color. It's kind of relaxing, just have my morning coffee and watch people color. So I did leave it, but of course, you are more than welcome to fast forward this to the next section. I only left it in because I'm making great time on this video so far. So for the scooter, I did use 3 shades of pink. I wanted to see if I can create a shadow or a highlight using the lightest, but it kind of got lost when it in. But if you actually look up closely, you can still see the gradient of the dark to the light. So it still worked. It just wasn't that if you saw what I did the first, I drew a line kind of like a balloon where you draw the line with a little dot, but it kind of got lost in there. But that's okay. Learn with every stroke I learn a new, I don't know. I'm just trying to fill in time. So just coloring in the lights. I decided for the dress, I decided to go yellow. I don't know why. I just really liked it. Maybe it's because there's so much blue. I just decided to go yellow. That's one thing I do enjoy about coloring is you don't need to follow rules. You just do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. So I went with the yellow. I did color the belt with that yellow too. Didn't like it. It was too much. So I colored her belt with a darker gray. Almost looks black. And then just shading it in. The colors are kind of not, they're just too similar, but it is a little bit darker. And then I colored the boots. They kind of look like Uggs. I should have did a little bit of a brown color, but she's stylish. She has all yellow on her big scooter. I love it. Okay, so that's done with the coloring, and now I'm just going to play around some of the papers. The reason I did go bright colors actually was because there was some pattern paper that had some really bold colors, and I wanted to kind of match it, but I didn't end up using it. What I'm going to do is I've cut it down with a square die, and I'm just going to mat it to a piece of white because I'm going to create a picture frame out of this. And you can see the pattern paper that I have in the background. That's actually going to be a wall. So if you saw my video I think it was 2 months ago, I created kind of a kitchen, a grandma's kitchen with the wallpaper. And this is kind of the same idea. This looked really perfect for a retro background. So I'm going to pretend this is a big picture that was hanging on the wall. I did take some of those photo corners and then I matted it to a piece of blue. But once that was on, I didn't like it. So off camera, I am going to rip that off, and I'll throw that in the garbage because I did tear the paper up pretty well. That glue glued pretty. Those photo corners are very sticky. So just reapply some glue, and I will just stick it right onto that pattern paper like a wall. And I'm going to just make it look like a nice painting or a frame with just corner frame. And I thought that looked really nice. And of course, to complete the scene, I'm going to have a couch. And it's just going to be this pattern paper that looks like a nice couch, I guess. And I'm going to glue that onto the base, and it is an A2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. To finish off, I will take some Love from Lizzie soft pink gold trim peel-offs. I should have done this first so I could tuck it behind so it doesn't peel off, but I didn't think about it until later, so I just trimmed it off. And then I added some yellow enamel dots that came into the collection. To finish off, I did put some freckles onto her face. Really cute card. I enjoyed this one. it's always fun to play with alcohol markers. Okay, for this card, I went one way and then totally changed directions, and I've cut it all out of the video, so you won't see much of it. But I've taken one of my favorite pieces of pattern paper in this collection, and I've cut them down into tiny strips. And I'm going to just glue them all across the card with an even space in between. Kind of just gives me an Asian-inspired feel. Those colors and the pattern, I just love it. It's really, really nice. I would love to have more of that paper. I just liked it. So I've evenly spaced it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the center out with a stitched die. So it leaves a stitch on the outside. And you saw that circle I had. Actually, that was what was going to go in the center, but it didn't turn out. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of acetate, and I'm going to put it on the back side. I decided to have a peekaboo, I think that's what it's called, window. But I'm going to do it a little differently, mainly because I was curious what would happen. So it's a really neat technique, but we'll see. So I've taken that acetate and I'm going to cover the back. And it doesn't matter about the glue because I'm going to hide it all. But what I'm going to do next is take a piece of the white tissue paper, and that actually is the tissue paper that came in the kit from Scribing for Less. It was wrapped around the whole thing. I just took a piece of it and put it around on the other side of the acetate, and then I'm going to take another piece of cardstock and just with a hole in it, and then cover the whole thing so that when you open up the card, you won't see the messy acetate tissue paper. And what I liked about it, and maybe not for this card, but what I liked about it was, first of all, it kind of makes me think of rice paper and that whole Asian-inspired theme. But what I liked about it is you don't see the message until you close the card tight. So it's kind of like, what does it say? And you got to push it down to see it. And that's what I liked about it. Not sure if this card pulled it off well, but I like the idea. So I'm glad I tried it because I can see myself playing around with other cards with this technique. I thought it was really neat. I really like this card, how simple it is, and it's just really neat. Okay, moving along, card number 4. This took a while. I did this with, I believe, the card kit with All About the Boys, and it was a buffalo that I stamped on a piece of scrap paper, and I did it on 2, and then I fussy cut them out and glued them all together. Well, I actually really like doing that technique. If you've seen any of my other videos where I play with my Cricut, I do the same thing. I like to cut all the paper out and then glue it all together to make one small die. And this is what I'm going to do with this cowboy and the cowgirl. I think this is called cow people. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just being silly. And I'm going to fussy cut them all out. So the first is going to be the base, and I chose the insulation pink that came in the card kit, and that's going to be the skin color. And so I'm just going to fussy cut out each piece. So I've stamped them all the same, and I'm going to cut out each piece and glue them back down. And the reason I like doing this with this pattern paper was because I was able to this collection actually had textured paper, especially the denim. So it just hit me that I really want to do this. The interesting thing about this technique with this pattern paper, because it's so small, you don't really get a solid color sometimes. Like, I won't show you how I did it. I'll just show you the end result with the girl. But her boots don't match. Even though it's the same pattern paper, because it was plaid, one boot is actually darker and one is actually lighter. And I really liked it because when this is all done, these look like little children dressed up as cowboys and girls. And it's just so cute. Oh my goodness, like I thank Scrapping for Less for this card kit. I have so much fun with this card kit. It's just, I think this is my favorite one so far this year. Anyways, so you'll see how cute this is. It just, like, you look at them and they look like little kids, little toddlers dressed up, and it's so sweet. So I'm just cutting each little piece, and for the plaids, I decided to do the sleeves. I did do the vest, but I decided that the plaid didn't work too much because, like I said, you have to be careful with working with small pieces on pattern paper, because if you stamped it in the wrong position, it will create a totally different color. You could end up with white or dark blue, for example. Like, you don't know. So if you really want to use a certain thing, don't do what I did and just blindly pattern or stamp. Be strategic. But the reason I like just going and doing it is because I can just pick up any of these scraps and just choose them. I could have used the denim if I wanted to. But what I decided to do was use that dark brown to chocolate cardstock, because it separated the jeans and the blue plaid shirt. So I know this could be very tedious. Some people may not like this, and I understand it is tedious, but to me this is actually one of my favorite things to do, because I definitely have a lot of patience, and I find this very soothing. For some reason, I don't know why. I just find it very soothing because it's just simple, and it's just pay attention and just slowly focus on what you're doing. You can't do it if you're rushing, because you'll cut things incorrectly. So that's why, if you can find companies that sell die cuts that do this for you, or even if a Cricut machine can do it, that definitely will help. But I enjoy that. So anyways, back to that, you'll notice that I stamped a red one. That's because the handkerchief that goes around the neck, I decided to do red. And I'm just letting it dry, because if I'm too eager, that VersaFine ink does take a little bit to dry. So here's an example of where pattern paper may not always work. I was hoping for a little bit more pattern, but I got one circle, one little pink dot on that hat. So it didn't really, it kind of looks funny, but that's okay. And I'm just taking my Sharpie because for being such a dark color, I don't want the white border. I kind of want to hide it. And I could have used distressed ink, any ink to be exact, but I find using my Sharpie is just the easiest for that type of coloring. And I didn't mention that the glue I'm using is called On Point glue. It's a very fine tip, and it's like a water-based glue. I really like it. It does leave a shiny residue, but because I'm covering almost everything, it doesn't matter. And it holds very well. So to finish off the hat, I'm just going to put a little piece of the blue plaid and just use that to cover the strip. And then here's the handkerchief, or the kerchief. I'm going to put right in the center. I didn't remember to put on the boots on his feet, but that's what makes it so cute, because it looks like it's a little toddler with his feet hanging out, not wearing any shoes. And there's the little girl. She has a pink cowboy hat, a little pink hair, and you can see the boots don't match. It's like a little child who has mismatched socks. Oh my goodness! It just, the smile on my face is just so too cute, too adorable. I'm going to keep this card very simple because I don't want to take away from all the hard work I did on the dies. So I'm just going to take that stamp Howdy, which is absolutely cute, and I'm going to stamp it right in the center of a piece of that pattern paper that came in the card kit. I believe it was called Starch Rain. I did use a rectangle dot die, and then I'm going to I'm going to use some foam adhesive tapes to prop the two characters up from the card a little bit. I really love the scrapbook.com foam tapes. They're reasonably priced, and there's so many of them. I am going to see if there's anything I can add to this, but I realized I just like the simplicity of this one. This one is just absolutely too cute to add any more to take away from it. So I'm just going to glue that right to the base of the card, right in the center, and I believe that's almost like a 1/2 inch border. To finish off, I will take some of the enamel dots, as always, because we get them in the kit, and I'm going to put 2 on either side, the smallest side, and that finishes off this card. I don't know about you guys, but I can't say how much I love this card. It's just so cute. I just love it. Okay, for the very last card, I'm using the die cut, and I've trimmed them out in the chocolate brown. And when I did that, I decided that I want to play with some Oxide inks. And so what I have is some peeled paint and Shabby Shutter, I believe it is. And I'm going to do that on the outside. I can't remember which one I did. I think that was the peeled paint on the outside. And then I will do the Shabby Shutter. And then in the very center, it's going to be mustard seed. Almost kind of gives me the impression of an avocado, but nothing fancy. I didn't add any water. I'm new to crafts, so I'm still way behind from everyone else's awesome techniques. I still am in absolute love with an absolute solid color piece. Like, it just blows my mind that these inks can make such a solid color. So like I said, you guys use your water. I love it. I'll watch your videos, but for now, I'm still playing with the simple, solid colors. I just love it. I'm going to glue this down on a piece of white cardstock. It's the same one that I use for the alcohol markers. It's just a piece of scrap left over. And I'm going to fussy cut that out. What I want to do is fill in most of this with the colors of cardstock that came in the kit, which was the Installation Pink, Snow Cone, and Limeade. So I'm going to cut that camera out, the die that came in the banana split, and I'm going to cut it 3 more times. One thing I will say is that this die was, I think, it was very detailed maybe. I had a hard time cutting it. It was, this is the first time I've ever had something so detailed, and it just, I think I needed to add more, I think people call them shimmies, more layers just to get a clean cut. So if you have this, did buy the banana split and you have it, and you didn't have any trouble, let me know. I'd love to know how to get a clean cut on this one. But I did, if you really look closely, especially the straight lines, it was a little bit frayed. So for the center, I'm going to use the snow cone, and it creates the lens. I really like that soft blue. And actually, when I first cut the blue, this is why I didn't go with the wild cherry, because after seeing the brown with this light blue, I realized that I wanted the softer colors. The red I was going to use for the flowers was just too dark. I didn't want to take away from the camera, because the camera still is the point, right? I want to see the camera, but I want to also add color. You notice, if you saw what I just did there, I realized the fastest way to fill these in is just put the die over top of the outline, and then just push them back into the hole, and they just stick right into the glue. So that really helped, instead of me doing one by one, which I was doing before. So that's my lesson for this video. If there is anything to learn, try this technique. It really saves time, and it lines it up perfectly. So I used the Limeade for the leaves, and then what I'm going to do is continue with that Installation Pink to do the flowers. Like I said, I was having trouble with the die. I wasn't getting a clean cut, so some of these weren't coming off because the pieces were still pretty attached. And in the end, I got frustrated and I just ripped it. No, I wasn't frustrated. Just dramatic effect, I guess I could say that. But I just ripped it because it was easier to take it out. I really like this. This die is really cool, and I really like filling it in with the softer colors. And I can see you don't need to use these. If you have your own colors, you can you can do so many fun things. Here, I never got my beautiful die until last weekend. Because I just recently moved, this beautiful die actually came from 2 card kits ago, but if you saw my video, a little message came saying it would be mailed later, but I had moved, so it was still sitting in my mailbox. So I decided that I will use it for this card, and it just worked perfectly. I'm glad that I didn't get it until now, because I'm so happy with that beautiful font with that camera. Like I said, this whole card kit, I don't think I've been as excited. Like, this kit is awesome. I really liked it. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of cardstock, and I'm going to trim down this piece just to create I believe it's a 1/4 of an inch border. It wasn't enough white. I wanted to have a frame to this. And I think this looks sharp. It is beautiful. And for all you who can make beautiful backgrounds, I think you could do an amazing job using the same design that I've just done. To finish off, I am taking a Spectrum Noir shimmer pen. Absolutely love this. I saw someone using it in their video, and I immediately purchased one. It just adds a beautiful shimmer so easily to anything. And then I got into the sequence pack that came in with the banana split card kit, and just adding the black ones and the little flowers. I'm just going to randomly move them around until my eye is happy with what I see. That little bead tray, I did get it last month, and still happy with it. I'm very happy I got one and didn't have to actually do it, make the purchase myself. And the reason I say that is because shipping is so expensive in Canada. So I always have to be strategic what I buy. And so when I can get these things already included in the card kit, it helps me a lot. And I'm just going to glue this down with my jewel picker and some Simon Says glue. And that's pretty much it. I absolutely love this card. I love distressed inks, and I love how that die was able to piece it all together. And now I'm just going to show you each card in slow motion up close to the camera so you can get a better detail. Sometimes I can zip through it and you don't really get to see it. Love that card. I love them all, but each one has a unique look to it, and that's what I try to do, is to try different styles, different mediums, different everything, just to encourage myself to try different ways of creating cards. And that's how I come up with such different things like this one. Not sure if I like it, but I like the idea, how the message gets hidden. And I really enjoyed this card kit. I can't say enough how much I enjoyed it. But I hope you did find something inspiring, maybe learned something new, or just enjoyed spending time with me. I'd love to hear back from you, any suggestions, any thoughts, any tricks that you think I should try out. Please feel free to comment below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks.